Hello, everyone. More and more sources continue going over Ukraine's historic attack on an oil refinery in Moscow, replaying the message by Vladimir Zelensky saying the war has now reached your home. Piece in Politico is interesting because it actually focuses on the start of the drone campaign by Ukraine, which took place 2 years ago, and a lot of people did not even realize it. 2 years ago, the situation was very, very different. Ukraine was struggling. Yes, Ukrainians were still fighting like a bunch of angry wolverines, but they were not making nearly the progress that we see today. And things truly were much dicier at the front. And so, despite all that, there was a concerted effort to up the drone production, to simplify the drones, to diversify the drones, making sure that they can be produced quickly, inexpensively, and sent out to the front. And so this is exactly what this article is talking about. This is why I recommend it. Yes, it still focuses on the Thursday attack against Moscow, but at least it gives you some foundation as to how all of this came about. I also want to remind everybody that Ukraine was reaching targets far more distant than Moscow in the Russian territory for many months now. And so I think specifically what happened in Moscow is more impactful because, well, it's the capital of Russia. No, Russia has been pounding Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, also for months and months and months and months. And again, remember, this follows the horrific attack on Kyiv-Pechorskaya Lavra, the monastery in Kyiv, after Russians have been insisting that they would never do such a thing. And then they tried to lie about it. But at this point, there's also a change in rhetoric, because even with everything that's going on, the massive casualties suffered by Russia, the lack of progress, a lot of Russians still refer to this as a special military operation directed to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, even though that was completely unnecessary. This was basically a false pretense. Now it's starting to sink in that no, this is not an operation. This is war. Call it by any other name, it's still a war, because now they hear drones buzzing over their own heads. Case in point, even as so many sources are still talking about the Moscow attack, the oil refinery there, Ukrainians struck Russia's Tyumen oil refinery that is 2,000 kilometers away, or 1,200 miles. At this point, Ukraine's Firepoint, a company that is the primary manufacturer of drones, has drones that can travel more than 3,000 kilometers. That's about 1,800 miles. Take out a map. Doesn't have to be a map of Ukraine. Take out a map of the country where you live and look up what is 1,800 miles away from you. That's how far they can go. And so this is important because Tyumen is also another area that is rich in mineral resources and oil. And so that is yet another source of Russia's revenue. And so again, if you can't pump the oil, if you can't refine the oil, if you can't transport the oil, if you cannot safely ship the oil, you cannot cash in on the oil. And again, Ukrainians are not just saying that. They bring receipts. The reason I say that, Russia is spreading yet another rumor that Ukraine had struck a passenger ferry in the Black Sea, and they present no evidence. So it's just another piece of propaganda trying to show, aha, see, Ukrainians are striking civilian targets. It's just another lie. Ukrainians, as usual, show, here's the pictures, here's the telemetry, here's the satellite images, and so on and so forth. In addition, they continue making Crimea unbearable for Russia, as Ukrainian forces struck an oil terminal in Kerch, which is in Crimea. And again, if you can't ship the oil, this is what oil terminals do. You cannot cash in on it. And what do the Russians do? Same old, same old. They're continuing to exterminate Ukrainian civilians. There were casualties in Nikopol, in Dnipropetrovsk. There was a strike in Poltava where 2 people were killed and 13 were wounded, including 6 children. In addition, there was a strike on my hometown of Zaporizhia. I'm getting ready to call my parents, see how they're doing. They attacked the city with glide bombs, killing 5 people and injuring 10 more. So, Sumy are getting pounded. This is in the Kherson region. We're getting pounded. So this is all continuing. They're so vicious. Instead of pausing to think the implications, they're just continuing to do what they have always been doing. They're taking it out on Ukrainian civilians, including Ukrainian children. And this is again where I would like to point out to people of Russia. So far, Ukraine had spared you. Unlike your government, Ukrainian government doesn't actually target your hospitals, your maternity wards, your kindergartens, your playgrounds, your libraries, your museums, your monasteries, your churches. That is a big difference. Ukraine is doing everything possible to stick with the oil targets and military targets. You have no problem, apparently, with Ukrainian children getting killed. And you start whining because you suddenly have oil rain falling from the sky and asking, oh my God, why do they hate us so? Well, this is why. More to come.